Welcome to 50 Shades of Greatness. And tonight, we're burdened with glorious purpose.
Okay.
Reviewing the first episode of Loki, the new show from Disney Plus.
I take it from your introduction, that grandiose wording, right?
And the shirts, we have these lovely shirts. We addressed the previous.
We addressed in a couple of okay. So I take it with your sort of your fantastical introduction to this clip that you were very pleased with the first episode of Loki.
Man, I am excited to have some new content, some new Marvel content out. Obviously, we had Falcon and Winter Soldier, which was excellent. But this now is much needed at this point in time, kind of with COVID restrictions lifting, and then some great new content to watch. I'm excited about it. I mean, and Tom Hiddleston, man, he's fun to watch. He's great to see. The story is great. Owen Wilson is great. His mustache is spectacular.
What about your thoughts on the general plot, the narrative?
I think the plot, the narrative, the situation overall is groundbreaking again in dealing with time and what the effects are of time and addressing that. I think that Marvel has constantly tried to push the limits of different subject matter, and this even goes deeper. I mean, we're talking about the time, whatever authority. What's the middle?
Timeline
authority.
Timeline variant authority.
So I think that it's a great concept, something that is definitely different from what the general public would think about, and that they are taking this out to Disney Plus, to something where the masses will view, and it's such an interesting concept, and people are so willing to ingest this time variance. I mean, what the hell are we talking about? It's pretty cool.
Well, they introduced the concept of timeline variance in, of course, Endgame.
Yes.
That was the whole thrust of how to fix the situation.
Right.
It was timeline variance. Okay. So I have some conflicting views of this.
All right.
Tom Hiddleston, as you said, is an excellent actor. He is eminently watchable. Love him.
Yes.
And the supporting cast is also great. Owen Wilson's mustache is indeed spectacular. And I think he immerses himself in that role perfectly. Mm-hmm. I also like some of the other supporting cast members. Gugu Mbatha-Raw, who plays the Timeline Variant Authority judge.
Yes.
And the security guard, her name is Mumi. I have it here. Wuni Musaku.
Yes.
She is actually, she physically embodies that security guard really.
Oh, she's excellent. Well. She's great.
And she's actually in a less glamorous role as that security guard. She's in other movies where you see her almost ethereal beauty. She is a beautiful woman, and she's in a horror movie called His House, I believe it's called, where she escapes war-torn Africa with her husband. And anyways, she's a wonderful actress, is what I wanted to come. So
that
the
supporting punch that she delivers to Loki,
she's
with awesome. That slow motion reaction.
It's very believable, right?
Going across, back and forth. It's so great.
Great direction, good characters, very good supporting cast. So I think it gives it top marks across the board. However, I do have some quibbles, maybe they're not quibbles, they're actual criticisms of the flow itself, because I have a general issue with time travel as a device,
right,
in books and in film.
It's a MacGuffin, right?
It's not, it's more of a Deus Ex Machina, MacGuffin, but whatever. Let's not get, I don't want to get bogged down in narrative devices. But as a Deus Ex Machina, it's just, you can bring it in to fix whatever plot situation or conflicts that you might, it's too easy of a fix. Right. So, and I find that when a narrative does concentrate on timeline variance or time travel, then a whole host of plot holes inevitably arise. And then they always try to explain it. And in Loki, they say, well, it only loops the actual object. It only loops you and not the actual objects, things like that. Yes. So all these things are going to come up. And of course, the more astute among you, or the more studious among you, or combine the two, are going to be looking for those plot holes. I'm not going to be looking for those particular plot holes myself because I know they're going to exist, but they do take me out. They do destroy my suspension of disbelief more often than not when we're talking about issues of time travel in a film or book. So that is going to be something that I'm afraid I won't be able to pull myself out of easily and just enjoy it for what it is, because it's great acting and great characters and all that. And then I also was watching it wondering.
So you're saying it's an easy fix. The time travel is an easy fix.
Yeah, oftentimes it's too easy a fix.
Yes. Okay.
So we just got to be. I'm going to be.
I have a disputing viewpoint.
Oh, good. Because I want somebody to counteract what I'm saying. Just say, "Shut up, man," and just enjoy.
Shut up.
Shut up.
No, and it's actually it's an argument the other way. So we'll see.
Okay, cool. And then the other thing is that I was wondering about is, do we need this addition to the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Not do we want, because I want it. It's great. But do we need it? So they're going to introduce Loki himself as the true antagonist. And this is what I think holds huge potential for this series, is because his role right now in the first episode is he is a protagonist, one among many, because the Timeline Variant Authority is the major protagonist as a whole, right?
But are they?
Well, we'll see. And then but he apparently is going to be the main antagonist and a different version of himself.
That's right.
So that's kind of some mind-bending situation, which I like the potential of that. However, it comes back to the idea of, well, they're going to be playing with timelines a lot now because of that. They have to. So my initial worry will spring back up. So that's where I come out of that.
Very good. So one thing that you've mentioned is, we just talked about, is that time travel is a fix, an instant fix. Whereas I think what this is doing is actually creating more problems than anything. And I think that's the component of this that's going to get more and more interesting. In WandaVision, with Wanda, they've indicated she's a Nexus character, Nexus individual, which means across time, across other dimensions, she's the same person all the way through. So wherever she is, in whatever dimension, she's the same individual.
So does that make her more powerful in some senses?
Yes.
Because she can't be affected by timeline variants?
That's right. So whatever dimension she's in, she's the same person.
Do you think you would be a Nexus person?
Well, the interesting part of Loki, we know through the lore, is that he is not. And they played with that in many great ways. So we know that he is the antagonist of what we're seeing here, but also there's multiple, and he's the god of mischief. So this kind of lends to this in that in multiple different timelines, you have multiple different Lokis. You have a little Loki, you have a big Loki, you have a lady Loki. There's all these different Lokis that can change.
Because his nature of character, he's screwing around.
That's right, screwing around. So there's multiple different types of Lokis that we're going to see through this series.
Now that begs the question. What about the Loki that realizes there's all these different Lokis? What kind of mischief would spring from that Loki? Because not all the other Lokis, I'm assuming, are aware of all the other Lokis.
Well, the thing that we have to understand is this is Loki, Avengers Loki, first Avengers Loki. He hasn't seen, he literally, what was so interesting is that he watched the movies that we watched after Avengers in that playback with Owen Wilson, and where he watched his own death, which was a great, so he hasn't been through any of that. He's still the guy who just brought the Chitauri down into New York. That's that guy. So he hasn't experienced any of the other stuff that we've seen going forward. We've seen in multiple movies.
Which is, again, for me, it's okay, it's time travel. When does the first time loop begin to screw up? And so it becomes an existential crisis for me in examining the origin of the time travel loop.
Well, and I'm going to jump on this, is that the Time Travel Authority or Time Variance Authority, who is the Time Variance? Who are these three individuals in the background? Well, there is a villain that is going to be coming to play in the next stage for Marvel, and it's Kang the Conqueror, who is the master of time.
Not Kong.
Kang! Not Kong.
Not King Kong.
Kang the Conqueror.
Different universe.
And so so the fact of the matter is that he may be the master of time behind all this.
Wait a minute. Because now you got to fill me in on something, okay? Those three that are the gods of the timeline variants, are they not Marvel's analogy to the triumvirate of Christianity? God, Jesus, because they're kind of running the whole show, are they not? The time,
all a sham. He's a wizard in the Wizard of Oz. That is not. That triad doesn't exist. It's Kang sitting behind the veil.
Dude, that's a huge spoiler. I didn't know that.
Well, I'm just guessing.
Oh, you're okay. Thank God.
But I'm saying,
I thought you just revealed the whole deal.
In the comics, the judge is actually his girlfriend and his lover.
What do you think about the idea that there's an actual major timeline, that's the sacred timeline, that's supposed to be followed?
Bullshit. Nonsense.
You don't like that? I like philosophically.
I
outside
think,
the context.
I
of
think.
the
I think
show.
they're telling this time variance authority is telling every timeline that they're the sacred timeline. Every timeline they're telling them that they're the sacred timeline. There's no sacred timeline.
Wait a minute. Then if it's all,
what are they to choose? What is this? And
well, they don't.
that?
The triumvirate chooses it, doesn't it?
Well, who are they to choose anything?
Well, I guess they're gods. That's what I'm saying. They're
right.
analogous to the. Okay, wait a sec. Now you got another issue that I need to think about, and I want all of you out there to think about it too. If the timeline variance authority is, by your theory, this is a theory, right? Not a spoiler.
It's a theory.
Okay. If by your theory they're telling every timeline out there that it is the sacred timeline,
or Kang is clipping the branches per se to make it work towards his own wants and desires.
Then everything is sort of is timeline relative. There's an absolute sort of relativism, which in itself is an oxymoron, because absolute relativism, think about that. Relativism is the opposite of absolutism. But that would be absolute relativism regarding timelines if every timeline is being referred to as the sacred timeline. So would everything matter then, or would nothing matter?
This is a great conversation. And thus the god of mischief becomes multiple personalities throughout, which creates chaos and just an interesting view throughout. I mean, so that's the thing. This concept that we're playing with for the masses is so interesting. This is Marvel. This is a comic book company.
Now I have another question to ask you. There is a theory in quantum mechanics that a system cannot change when you're observing it, that you can dice up your observational situation of particles to such an extent that they won't change if it's sliced up in short enough intervals. Well, on the timeline of relative scale, which would be infinite, wouldn't each of our observations of these individual strains of time follow into that concept that a system cannot change when you're observing it? And again, I'm just being really philosophical here, man, because this time travel stuff really boggles my mind, and then sometimes I get caught up and the wheels get turning.
Well, wouldn't
that fall into that?
Well,
theory?
that's the thing again, with the end game, where they say, since you're observing it, if you go back in time, then the past becomes your, what does they say? That past
becomes your future.
That's
because
right.
You're following a narrative.
Yeah, and that past can't change your future.
It can't change your
because you've been
future.
Observing it. Right?
Now we become, it's almost like an MC Escher type drawing where everything's become impossible, an impossible loop where you're changing your future, but observing these different segments of time comes into that quantum mechanics.
Well, because it personally becomes your own past and thus
observe.
Cannot affect your future.
And there's going to be
you're observing it.
Plot holes, I think, should abound from such a device.
Yes. And I think that this is episode number 1. I love to see him view his own death. That was just fantastic. And again, burdened with glorious purpose.
You really
is what
love that line.
Well, yes, it's a great line. It's an epic line. And he realized at that moment, there was no glorious purpose. He suffered a sad and pathetic death in the hands of Thanos with the snap of a neck. Okay.
Loki is apparently one of the smarter beings in the universe, right? Mm-hmm. His intelligence is on a very extreme scale.
Absolutely.
He's far more intelligent than Thor.
Yes, absolutely. His speaking is his superpower.
This is just one of those things. I'm not going to get too philosophical with this, but don't you think it took him a way too long a time to figure out that his powers didn't work in the timeline variance authority building? I'm like, come on, man. I figured this out within 2 seconds. Loki.
To see the Infinity Stones shoved in a dress.
Why did he need to see the Infinity Stones shoved in? That was great.
That was excellent.
I thought
some of the guys use these as a paperweight.
That, for me, that actually kind of, I don't want to say it blew my mind, but I thought that was an interesting device.
Yes.
That when, again, relativism, things taken out of its particular context can be rendered insignificant.
Inert. Yeah. So I find this a fascinating study, and particularly with two great actors, with Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson, who are incredibly entertaining. Together they're gold.
I'd say their on-screen charisma is almost on par with ours.
Oh, maybe.
Well, I mean, we got. Let's not
You're reaching for the stars.
Overstate that one, Trev.
No, but facial hair equally as glorious.
Wow, you guys do look sharp.
So, I mean, I'm looking forward to these next episodes. And again, I'm thrilled to have this back, to have Marvel back in the scene. Looking forward to more content that they're going to be bringing forth. Like I say, I love the fact that again, when we have been talking about time travel and the aspects of time and branching off of different timelines 5 years ago, we wouldn't have been. This has been introduced by Marvel, really.
No, I mean, there's other time travel movies though. So Marvel didn't introduce this by any means.
But in different concepts, they tried to explain it. Like they actually explained away Back to the Future, the concepts that are introduced.
Well, that was a nice little element. But I mean, Back to the Future has its own concept of time travel. Hot Tub Time Machine does a bang up job.
Absolutely.
That's a movie to study if you're a quantum physicist.
but they actually bring it into conversation. They actually question it. So then you go away saying, is that true? Is that right? Oh, let me question the essence of time.
Yeah. Well, we just questioned it.
We did.
Right now we're moving through time. Or are we?
Time and space.
Are we though?
Yes. Yes, we are.
I don't know.
Anyway, what do you think about overall? What do you think of the episode?
Okay, so I'm going to reserve. No, I'm not going to be judicious. I don't like when people. Okay, overall, the episode, I'm going to give it a 7 because it's highly entertaining, great actors. But I'm not only giving it a 7 because it has the potential to be a knockout, runaway, blow minds.
Yeah,
like 9.5 out of 10. I don't give anything 10 out of 10. But I have some significant concerns with this time travel device.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And obviously they're not going to wrap it all up for me in episode 1. Right. So we're going to see where it goes.
I'm going to throw down an 8.5.
Yeah.
Just because I'm thrilled to have it back, and I love the content, love the acting. Owen Wilson, Tom Hiddleston. I thought the subject matter was interesting. I love seeing him waiting in line to get through the time barriers with his ticket.
Right.
I thought it was all very entertaining.
And don't forget my girls, Gugu Mbatha Raw. I just like saying it. Right. And I think it's Wunmi Mosaku.
Strong female characters. You gotta love it.
Gugu Mbatha Raw looks like Kerry Washington.
Oh, really? Let's take a close look.
You should. You should Google that presently, sir. Keep your stick on the ice.
Balls in the air.
Peace out. We love you.